This might be a possession obsession, but I think it's time for some more true stories of real demons. This world is a strange one. Heaven versus hell, good versus evil. The eternal struggle goes on, and we just happen to be the bystanders getting ransacked. Demons are pure evil. Any opportunity they get, demons will attack and torture human beings. Sometimes it's as subtle as oppression, a feeling of dread in your home that leads you to be unhappy and angry more often. And sometimes a demonic haunting can even be deadly. So what's the name of the demon haunting you? Enjoy these allegedly real demon hauntings. But first, my dream has almost come true. I only need 1,000 more words worth of stories to complete my Taco Bell scary story video. So if you've got a tale to tell, be sure to send it over to us at darknessprevails.org. Thanks. Also, I want to apologize for the lack of interaction I've had with this channel lately. I've been dealing with strep throat after strep throat, and I think I might need a tonsillectomy soon. Problem is, my voice might be out of commission for a while, and I can't afford to not be sharing stories with my favorite people in the world, you subscribers. No worries though, I'll figure something out. But for now, these demons are more than just red skin and horns. Number 1. Demons in the Orchard. Submitted by Deathman. I've never really believed in any supernatural hauntings before, but what I experienced in the orchard a few years ago still haunts me to this day. Walking home from school one day, one of my friends named Brian told me about an orange orchard here in the city where I lived at the time. He told me if you're walking in the orchard at 12 in the middle of the night, you'll see something like a ghost in the orchard. I didn't believe in ghosts at the time, so I just thought he was making up stories to scare me. Then he told me that one time when his dad was driving home with his dog Pepper in the truck, his dog jumped out of the truck and ran into the orchards. Of course, his father stopped the truck and went into the orchards to find the dog. Walking inside them, he found the dog on the ground, whimpering as if it had been hurt. His dad carried the dog out of the orchard and back to the truck, but while walking he saw something like a shadowy, slender figure running through the orchards. The noises it made were inhuman and terrifying. After telling the story, Brian dared me to go into the orchard to find out for myself, and I accepted the challenge. He told me the location of the orchard. So I woke up at 11:30 that night, threw on some clothes and rode my bike to the orchard. I was a bit headstrong back then, and I would do anything to prove my bravery. I believe I arrived at the orchards at 11:55 that night. I walked into them and brought only my video camera to record my experiences. Thinking back on it, I wish I had brought a friend. I stopped where I was surrounded by orange trees all over, and I hit record on my camera. I waited until it was 12. While waiting though, I was staring at the oranges on the trees. I smelled the air, then shifted my gaze into the stars of the night sky, listening to the air passing by my ears. Soon it was 12 midnight, and I'd gotten myself in the mood to be scared. I began to walk around inside the orchard, keeping my eyes peeled for anything bizarre. For a while, I was more worried about there being security around the orchard or something. I really didn't think I'd see anything more than just trees. Even still, I continued walking. Soon, I heard a shout from far away in the orchard. It sounded like someone was yelling. It might have been the owner, so I stayed hidden and low, and I slowly made my way back out of the orchards. But the shouting drew closer and changed in tone. It was some kind of yelling, and I couldn't tell what it was saying. But very quickly, one thing became clear. This voice did not sound human. I looked over where the yelling was coming from, and I saw a red light moving side to side. Then another red light came, and they just both disappeared. Luckily, I had my camera on them the whole time. Walking back where I had my bike, I heard walking behind me, footsteps hitting the ground hard. I turned around. Seeing what was behind me haunts my dreams to this day, and it makes me regret ever going into that orchard. On the ground before me lay a corpse. It was covered in rotting scratches, and the head looked like it was burnt by fire. The flesh on its head was brown and crisp, showing part of the skull from the forehead to the chin. I nearly screamed, but before I did, I blinked, and when my eyes opened again, the corpse was no longer lying down. It was standing up. It was looking up at the night sky, releasing a terrifying screeching moan, and it made me fall to the ground, screaming in panic. Was I hallucinating? I pulled myself up as fast as I could, and I ran full speed to where I hid my bike, and at the same time my heart felt like it was going to explode. I turned my head around and saw that whatever was there was gone, but there was something else in its place, a silhouette of a tall, thin figure. It was nothing more than a shadow, a slender shadow. Not soon enough, I burst out of the orchard, hopped onto my bike, and rode home as fast as I could. When I arrived home, I fell in my bed and covered myself in the sheets. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I could not stop thinking about what I saw. The things I witnessed that night proved me wrong about ghosts not existing, and it stopped me from going out at night alone for a long time. Number 2. That Demonic Presence. Submitted by Chris B. I grew up north of Orlando, Florida. Where I lived was kinda in the middle of nowhere, and the nearest store was 20 minutes away. So yeah, it really was the middle of nowhere. When I was around 8 or 9 years old, I had a few strange things happen to me in our home. Nothing too bad, but it made me think. The first incident was someone calling my name. I would always ask my parents or my sister if they had called me, but they never did. The second incident, which started to really creep me out, was I would get woken up by someone shaking me awake. Now, to make it clear, whatever shook me was grabbing me by the hand or my feet. And again, I would ask anyone if they tried waking me up, but they would say no and look at me in confusion. Yes, this is kinda creepy, but what comes next still terrifies me to this day. One night, I woke up needing to use the restroom really bad. The bathroom was right next to my bed, while my sister's room was across from my door. The living room was next to my sister's room, and I had a family room behind the living room which I could see from my bedroom. Beside my room was our front door and the kitchen. Anyway, I get up and head to the bathroom. I happen to look toward the family room, and I wish I never did. Plain as day, there were two glowing red eyes looking toward our kitchen. And immediately I froze, trying to explain away what I was seeing. Maybe it was some sort of reflection. I was terrified and filled with dread, and when explaining it away didn't work, I started blinking, thinking I was maybe seeing something or maybe something was in my eye. Then I began hoping I was in a nightmare, but after a certain blink, its gaze was now on me. My eyes widened, and I could not scream. The thing never moved, but the eyes were fixed on me, and I was more sure than ever that this was all too real. After what felt like an eternity, I was able to move one of my fingers enough to close my door. The moment I broke eye contact, I could finally move. I ran to my bed and got under the covers. I was thinking it was going to come after me, that I would hear animalistic, large footsteps coming my way, but I never did. Needless to say, I barely got any sleep the rest of the night, and of course, when I told my family about it, they didn't believe me. Also, this was the last experience I had in that home as well. Now, I know I wasn't dreaming. I know I had gotten out of bed, and I saw that thing. I had never been more lucid. I know what I saw, and I will never forget it. Even as I'm typing this experience, I'm getting goosebumps just recalling it. Call me crazy, but I swear I can still sometimes see those eyes when I close my own. Number 3. Darkness in my bedroom. Submitted by Miss Victoria. My story isn't long, it's one that is creepy, and although I was very young, it sticks out to me still, clear as day, and I know that it really happened. My anxiety is building up, just remembering it. Now, as I recall, I was about 3 years old when this happened, and before you think no one remembers things before they're 4, this memory was very traumatizing, so much so that it stuck with me forever. It was a typical night. My mother got me ready for bed, and my dad tucked me in after. My room was right next to my parents' bedroom. I was still sleeping in a crib at this time. I remember lying there in the darkness, because I never would go to sleep when my parents put me to bed. And when I looked at the end of my crib, I saw this dark form. When I say dark, I mean it was so dark that it made my already dark room look like shade on a sunny day. And then it spoke to me in a deep voice saying,
"If I don't get you now, I'll get you someday."
I began to scream for my parents, and as soon as my dad came and flipped on the light, the dark figure was gone, just like that. After this experience, I never slept in the dark again. I absolutely had to have a nightlight, and to this day, I'm not ashamed to say that at 26 years old, I rarely will sleep alone in the dark. I have to have my dog with me at the very least. At the time of this incident, I was not yet baptized or anything like that, because my mom believed that I should make my own religious choices as I got older. I don't know what that thing was, whether it was a demon or just a dark entity of some kind in the house trying to scare me. I don't know if it's going to come back. As I got older, I did become a Christian and I did get baptized, though I'm not super religious or anything like that. I haven't really had any more paranormal experiences like that since, other than my dad visiting me and talking to me after he passed. I don't know why I felt compelled to share this story, but I think as children we are more sensitive to the paranormal, especially compared to adults. So if your child is saying there was something in their room, you might not want to doubt them. Number 4. The Dark Demon. Submitted by Montana. So this happened just last November on the 11th. I don't know why this happened or how, but this is my story, and I'm still very physically and mentally shaken from it. One night, I was just sitting down and watching some anime, chatting it up with my girlfriend, like we usually do. Well, around 10:50, my girlfriend was in the middle of a sentence, and then she suddenly stopped talking. I didn't know why, so I asked if everything was okay, but she shushed me. As I sat in my bed and listened, I heard a low, raspy voice call for her. I was confused because her mom and stepdad got in a fight, so her mom left and her stepdad went to work, so I don't know what I was hearing over the phone. Of course, I asked her if she was playing a prank on me, to try to scare me or something. She does that every now and then. Next thing I know, we're back into a normal conversation. I still don't have an explanation, but I think something just startled her. Later on, we started to video chat, because she hated the feeling of the phone digging into her ear. So as we were video chatting, I heard a loud bang come from the kitchen, my kitchen. So I walk into the kitchen, only to find my dog getting into the pile of trash. He had tipped over the trash can. And then suddenly, I heard an even louder bang from upstairs. I was already up, so I went to check it out, and I noticed one of the big windows were wide open. When I walked up to close the window, I noticed that there was blood on the glass. There was even a tire laying on the floor and a dent in the wall. Now I have no idea what happened or how that got in there, but I decided to call the cops and let them investigate. Apparently the blood was from a cat, and the tire was from a small cell down the road. But that doesn't explain why the tire was on my floor when no one that lived here was up there or had brought it in. The police called it in as a man with mental issues and said, "We'll keep our eyes open for him, stay safe, and to try to trim the branches off the trees outside." All of this was more weird than creepy, to be honest. Eventually, I went back to my room, still on the phone with my girlfriend on video chat, and then she asked me, "Who was that standing behind you?" It sent chills down my spine. I asked, What are you talking about? This couldn't have been a man, because when she described it, through the little light I had, she said their arms were reaching out towards me, and whoever they were as tall as the ceiling. Now, if there was an 8-foot tall man and I walked straight past him, I think I would have at least seen him. But apparently he only showed up for her. When I went back upstairs, I decided to look in the garbage can, and it turns out that whatever decided to throw the tire was at the garbage can too. Because inside the garbage can, there was a dead cat, and that's why my dog was getting into it. I wanted to throw up, and I did not want to be alone that night. Later on after that, after what my girlfriend had said, when no one was home, I would go down to the basement and turn on my camera and look behind me. I don't know if I was stupid or just curious or both. I wanted to see what she saw. But never once did I see anything behind me, though I did give myself a few good jump scares. On November 13th, I decided to take another look downstairs. And again, when I turned the camera on facing me, there was nothing there. I was about to shrug off the whole paranoia, but then I decided to switch the camera mode to face the front. And the moment I did, I wanted to die. Some sort of shadowy thing was sitting there on top of the washing machine staring down at me. I nearly dropped my phone. I ran back upstairs so fast. While running, I switched the camera back to facing me just to see if something was pursuing me. And luckily, there wasn't. The moment I was out of the basement, I heard the loudest baying coming from down there. But this time I decided it was not a good idea to go investigate. Well, at least until my brothers got home. When they did, we all went down together. We took out our phones and brought flashlights. And sure enough, that thing, whatever it was, showed itself to all of us. And once again I found myself running up the stairs, this time with my brothers. I don't think any of us have ever been that scared in our lives. Once our mother was home, we confronted her. We told her that something was haunting this house, that we needed a priest or something to bless the home or at least take a look. Well, seeing that we were all saying the same thing, my mom decided to call a priest anyway, just to get us to shut up. I don't think she ever believed us. Later that week, when one came by, we told him what we saw. He blessed the home and went along with our stories. What was weird, though, was the fact that the priest told us, before he left, to delete any photos or recordings, audio or video, of this thing if we caught any. Now, even if we had recorded it, I had never heard of a demon or ghost or anything like that becoming more angry and aggressive just for having pictures of it. And that creeped me out a little bit more. It kinda makes me worry that writing this and sending it out on the internet might not be the best idea. I don't know what that entity was, or if it even had anything to do with the cat in the trash can and the tire in our house. Maybe they're just two separate stories occurring at the same time. But it gets you thinking, if they really are two parts of the same story, that makes this demon even more terrifying. Number 5. My Family's Paranormal Past. Submitted by Becca S. Paranormal experiences must run in my family or something. I've heard a ton of stories from most of my family, and I'd like to share a few. My mom told me of the time when she, my dad's sisters, and a few cousins of hers played with a Ouija board. This is before my parents were married. They were hanging out together at one of her cousins' houses, and no parents were home. So they thought it would be the perfect time to play with the Ouija board that they had secretly bought. So they played, and they asked the normal questions. Is anyone there? What's your name? Stuff like that. The planchette moved though, and they were all skeptical at first. My mom got a little freaked out, especially if no one else was actually moving it. They were all scared, and they decided to say goodbye and put it away. After they said bye, the phone rang. When someone answered it, there was no one there on the other side. They hung up, only for it to ring again and again and again. Every time they answered, no one would be on the line. After several times, they stopped answering and let it ring. Then doors all throughout the home began to open and slam shut around them. They decided to throw away the board, and it stopped, but after an hour it began again. So they decided to grab the board, and after some research, decided to burn it. They took it outside and threw it in the fire pit and set it on fire. And the second it began to burn, they heard a blood-curdling scream echoing from the flames. That was the last time she ever played with the Ouija board. She's a very religious person, and unlike most parents, she always believed me about my stories. Something else also happened when my brother was 5. He woke up one morning to my great-grandmother sitting at the end of his bed. She said to him, "Don't worry, I'm with Jesus now." This scared him. He ran downstairs and told Mom, and she thought he had just been dreaming. But later that evening, she got a phone call from the hospital. Apparently, she had died at about 4 a.m. in the morning. My mom looked at my brother in tears as she remembered what he told her that morning. Now, my story is a bit different. When I was 11, I finally got my own room because my older sister moved out, and my other older sister moved into that room. I then moved into the smallest room in the house. My younger brothers shared a room, so they got the biggest. But I didn't complain. I loved my room. It was the right size. A year passed by and nothing strange happened. Until one night. Do you ever get the feeling in the middle of the night that someone is watching you sleep, and the feeling is so strong that it wakes you up and you have to check around you? Well, I got it, and I woke up to a black figure standing at the edge of my bed, just watching me. I was horrified. I shut my eyes tight and pulled the blankets over me. I didn't open them for what felt like half an hour. When I finally did open them back up, it was gone. But that wasn't the last of it. This kept happening until I wasn't scared of it anymore. Years passed and the shadow figures would still linger, but they never did any harm. Occasionally, though, they would touch my feet, and they would wake me up in the middle of the night, or smack against my windows or door. But that's it. I'm 15 now, and it's still happening. I haven't told anyone, especially my mom, because after her childhood Ouija board experience, she gets very paranoid about avoiding such demonic things. If I told her about this, she'd probably try to control every aspect of my life to get rid of it, or even blame me for it because of the music I listen to or the movies and shows I watch. She thinks they open gateways to let demons in. I don't know about that, but I ignore it and go on with my life. A lot of people joke about paranormal encounters, saying that it's a joke, saying that it's all not real, that it can be explained away. But let me tell you something. That's from people that never experience anything themselves. They think they're right because that's all they know. But if it ever happens to you, it's not funny. It's not a joke, and it's 100% real. I don't think people will ever understand. And number 6, Beamen. Submitted by Christina B. My family and I moved into our new home October 22nd of 2015. For a while, everything seemed fine. We were all happy and loving our new home. A few months went by, and I started to hear knocks on my walls. My family would freak out about it, but they would eventually shrug it off. But I couldn't ignore it. It started happening more and more, and I would begin to get the feeling that someone was playing with my hair. I wanted to believe it was just my imagination. But one night, when I fell asleep in the front room, all my fears were confirmed. I woke up around 2:40 in the morning. I wanted a cigarette, so I walked into the kitchen and turned on the light. I started rolling myself a cigarette. When I finished it, I turned around to walk over to the light switch. Well, when I turned, I saw this big black figure in the doorway of the kitchen. It was huge, and I could see red eyes coming from it. I screamed, and when I did, the thing just vanished. I was so terrified. The weird thing, though, was no one heard me scream, but I swear to God, I screamed at the top of my lungs. 3 nights go by and nothing else has happened, until one night, I heard my daughter call my name, but her voice sounded off. I went downstairs and I opened her bedroom door, only to see the same big black figure hovering over my daughter. I screamed at the thing, and once again, it vanished. My daughter woke up crying and said I'm never sleeping in that room again. I can't say I blame her. I had my daughter come upstairs and make a bed on the couch, and things were fine for a couple more days. On a later night, when we all went to bed, I woke up around 2 in the morning to get a glass of water. When I walked out into the front room where my daughter was sleeping, the dark figure was there again, hovering over her. I yelled at it to get away from her, and it vanished. I ran to my daughter's side, and she looked at me in fear. She was crying, and I saw that her PJ bottoms were forced down to her knees. I wanted to vomit. The next day, I didn't hesitate to call a priest. They sent over someone to get rid of this demon in my house. And ever since then, we haven't had any more sightings, and everything feels safer than it did before. I simply can't thank that wonderful priest enough for what he did. And as a mother, I've never been more disturbed or horrified by something in my life. The world of demons being so close to our own. It's like being surrounded by neighbors who are your worst enemy. And better yet, each one is a psychotic criminal. They all want to see you dead. Your best option is to leave them alone. Keep your distance, and do your best to not be such an annoying human as they think you are. There are things out there that see us as less than cockroaches. Good night. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And don't forget to send us your Taco Bell horror story soon at darknessprevails.org. Thanks.